It's such a delight to have you here with us on Mindful Leaders. Hayk, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Lara. It's a privilege for me to be here with you.
Wonderful. Hayk, you are the CEO for the National Center of Innovation and Entrepreneurship, and I think you've held this position for a little bit, close to 2 years almost now. Tell me what, I actually never knew about the center, I never heard about the center before I met you. Tell me a little bit about the mandate and the objective of the center, and tell me a few of the accomplishments you've succeeded to make at the center.
Thank you, Lara. You know, National Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, it's a big governmental organization with some good mandates, but for me it's like small Armenia because it had great heritage, great history, but after Soviet Union collapse, it was in a very bad situation and condition, and only because of motivated, inspired people who would want to serve the country, the organization, and do some good things, we are improving the organization and raising awareness about it.
And so what does it do? I mean, is it primarily focused on new innovations, and what about, is it science-based?
At this point, it has 3 basic mandates. First, together with the Armenian engineers and scientists of America, and recently ACE of Armenian Society of Fellows joined as well. We're doing the ecosystem building of helping scientists to commercialize their inventions. And it is big, especially for Armenia. We had big scientific heritage that was ruined after Soviet Union collapse. And now we want to rebuild this heritage and help our scientists with their inventions to commercialize and earn money from their inventions. This is one. Second is Business Support Office with the main direction for technological, scientific, innovative, and SMEs. And we helped more than 1,000 entrepreneurs only last year, from very small to big organizations, to come open offices in Armenia, open factories, productions. We introduced them with scientific community to start working on some new products, inventions. And the third mandate, and it is new actually, and it is directly related to diaspora, and it is very big. We call it the second stage of the Igor's program of diaspora of Zara Sinanyan. And because me and most of my staff are from diaspora, by the way, it's the organization which has the biggest number of diaspora representatives among all governmental organizations, more than 10 people from diaspora. And this program is about reimbursing part of the salaries for high quality international experts who would want to come and work in Armenia, public-private sector. And it is quite big, already more than 500 people applied, and we want to systematically bring to Armenia high-quality experts in different fields.
So, I mean, I know that there's a scientific library. I've never been, I'm ashamed to say, but I believe that's also connected with probably your center, with more than 22 million publications, licenses, patents. All that is wonderful, but you still feel, or at least we still feel, that there's some limitations in the way we're moving forward with technological transfer projects, or even trying to help build a stronger, a more efficient science-based economy. What are the limitations in your opinion, and what are you hoping to achieve apart from bringing in these three different mandates? What do you hope to achieve?
The main goal is to finally form a centralized technology transfer office, and American model is a role model for us, with the help of people from different universities and departments of governmental departments in the States. The problem is that it is a long-term project. It can take a few years to form this office if you go through governmental
red tape.
Yes. And as you mentioned, we have this big library, which was almost forgotten And now we are modernizing the library and building the scientific center. And we are gonna use the resources of the library to at least start the building of technology transfer office. And then to bring more finance, more expertise, and especially governmental separate decision to have the office finished.
Wonderful. I'm very interested to know more about you, Hayk, because you've never been a government official previously. Your career has been primarily in business, in the private sector, as an entrepreneur. You've had different corporations, you've held executive leadership positions. A more financially lucrative career you've had in Moscow. Then in 2020, 10 days before the Artsakh war, you decide to move permanently to Armenia with your wife Anna, with your two very young children, Suren and Anastasia. I'm thinking, what was your intention? Because being a government official, you're actually taking a pay cut, all these different limitations you would have. Why? What was your intention?
As you mentioned, Lara Can, yes, I've never been involved in any governmental programs in different countries. In Russia, Canada, United States, I was mainly in private sector, finance, auditing, consulting, and then my own family businesses, the construction, IT, language schools, etc. And one day I just thought that every one of us we have purpose in life and a mission. I was searching for a mission for myself, and I just decided to rediscover Armenia for myself. I returned to Armenia after a long time. I was not here, and I met my wife, and then I thought, actually, it's not interesting for me to have all these interesting kind of life projects, maybe success, anything, if you don't see something big and some purpose in that. And I thought that I should start some business in Armenia. We were thinking with my brother about opening a winery here. He continued, and when I heard about this program, the High Commissioner's Office of Diaspora,
it's basically e-courts, right?
E-courts program.
That enables professionals around the world to come and work here, but for a government position.
Yes, for a government. And many people were telling me it is very difficult to change anything in the government. And I decided to give it a try, and I'm so happy. I was invited in some institutions. I decided to continue with the Ministry of Economy. And then I offered the Prime Minister to rebuild this center, the National Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. And together with the Minister of Economy and with other governmental representatives, we started the process. And I just want to say that I'm so happy that finally I returned back to Armenia, even though there are many, many hurdles, and you need to be very courageous, very strong to change, especially in the government. In the same time, you see many like-minded people from different countries and in Armenia, like you, Lara Can, like Rafi Bakcan, you had an interview with him, Alya Sayan, other people are great scientists. And I really see, after little more than a year, an impact that we already did in Armenia. In any other place, it would be a lot more difficult and long-term. Plus, it's your home country. I'm telling honestly, I feel pleasure to serve for my country. And when you accept enthusiasm, when you see the result, it gives you even more motivation to continue.
Regardless of the challenges and the bureaucracy, and I'm sure there are also many people that would just not agree or maybe feel intimidated by having this person coming and leaving everything and coming for a lesser pay, lesser salary. But it seems like you're finding fulfillment there. And before I even ask you anything about purpose or life purpose, which is also interesting to me, I want to ask you how you manage to maintain and retain the professionals you have in your office. Because like I said, if you've attracted through eCodes different professionals to work with you and even to stay with you, despite these challenges of moving forward easily or efficiently, what is the magic that you're using, if I can put it this way, because it is magical, that you're able to really persuade and inspire these individuals to stay with you and to help move forward with you? So what is your magic, and what for you is important in a leader to be, what qualities should a leader have to be able to have that kind of efficient team and retain them?
You should be a mindful leader.
Yeah, what does that mean for you?
For me, leadership is a philosophy, and there are many types of leadership. But again, as Al Yesayan, he always mentions this servant leadership.
Servant leadership, yeah.
And I think that by nature I'm a servant leader, and because I really like to be surrounded and unite people. And practically here I see that when you care about people's intentions, when you think about their values, when you give them motivation, when you give them vision, when you communicate with them, and when you set certain goals and you achieve these goals together, they feel really, really inspired to go forward, even though the salaries, as you mentioned, are really, really low. The average salary is less than 200,000 drams in my organization. And many people, they think that this servant leadership, they can understand it like a weakness.
So it's interesting what you mentioned servant leadership, and I remember when I was I had a former boss, and he kept telling me that a leader should show stealth and sternness and show power and strength, because if not, if you show weakness and vulnerability, they will think that you're a weak person and they can walk all over you. And that, I mean, obviously I did not agree with that, but I mean, there are many leaders who still lead this way, because they have the sense that if they're too weak or supple or sensitive, then people will take advantage of that kind of personality. What do you think about that?
Actually, I've seen things like this here many times. It's the problem of, again, post-Soviet countries, when people valued autocratic type of leadership, and when you show them that you care about them, they think that you're weak and they try to take advantage of you, especially in the governmental system, when you need sometimes to give, very often to give concrete orders and tasks to people, otherwise they will not do it. But for other types of people, again, with these lower salaries, if you are too strict with them, they're not going to continue. And for many of them, they're just telling me, don't pay me anything, we're going to continue anyway.
Continue working with you.
Yeah, continue working with me anyway. Just register me as permanent worker, volunteer permanently. Because I'm uniting people as a servant leader who would want to serve each other and to serve country. This is the main goal. And by doing this, we filter these people. And I would be happy to say that beginning of this year, finally I have a core team of these type of people, and I'm just looking forward to show what we're gonna achieve this year.
That's beautiful. Very nice. So I'm gonna switch gears a little bit, Hayk. And I'm going to go into your family history. This is also a golden nugget from me, because I always like to hear people's stories. you remember at the age of 3.5, you told me, 3.5, 4, when you were still in Gyumri before your family moved to Vladivostok from Gyumri. So at a very young age, you remember your grandparents, Marzbetuni and Asya. You remember your grandparents talking, among each other about how they and their parents survived the genocide. So originally they're from Mush, or their parents are from Mush. I think their names were Melkon and Bayaz, if I remember correctly. So they escaped Mush with 3 children, and I would like for you to tell me what you remember of the story and what was important for you.
Thank you, Lara.
Because the reason why I ask is 3.5 years old. That's a very young age. I don't even remember what I, at the age of 7, what happened to me. But 3.5, you remember these stories. That's impressive. Tell me what you remember.
I slightly remember very important things that have big impact on my life. Than when they were telling about their life in Western Armenia, how they were happy, and after then escaped, returned to Armenia. And for me, very, very motivating was that they continued being happy, and because they had something higher in their life, they brought with themselves this interesting story. And it's our family legend. They brought an old Bible with themselves from Western Armenia to Shirak, to Gyumri. And for them, this book, it gave them more purpose in life. And when I was talking with my grandmother, I was asking her, with my brother, by the way, who created us? She always kept saying, Astված Pabik. And
the Lord.
Yeah. And for them, this book was very important, and many people, it was a very, very old book, and family legend was saying that donkey brought this book on his back to my great-grandmother, and they kept it, and many people used to come to their house and pray, and they see some interesting, I would say maybe miracles or stories of their lives, like people who had no children, they used to come and they become parents, and many of them, they were building one big church together. They built right on the territory of my great grandparents.
In Gyumri.
In Gyumri, yes.
So basically, this Bible that was actually brought by fluke or by chance on a donkey. And nobody else was with this Bible, and it lands in your grandmother's or great-grandmother's hands in Mush.
Yes.
And so basically, you're saying it actually enabled people to have certain miracles, like.
Yeah.
And so this couple is the one that they finally, after years of not being able to be pregnant.
Yes. They connected with the Bible.
How interesting.
And they were very grateful, many people. But then at one point, this book was lost. Somebody stole it. Many, priests from Echmiadzin, they were coming and asking to bring it to Echmiadzin. And my grandmother was saying, no, we should keep it here. And they were very sad that they lost the book. But when I returned to Armenia, I started searching, and I discovered that finally it's in Matenadaran. And now everyone is very happy and very calm about it. I just want to add that this story brought many interesting things for me, that again, you need to be strong and you need to be courageous, as you're saying, and in Armenian these words mean kaj, Christosi ach, if you are courageous, God is with you. And in my life, I had many interesting steps when I had connections, with this story. When it was difficult for me in Canada, I had some difficult period of life, and I wanted to find the purpose of life. And I found New Testament. I started reading, and words of Christ about blessed people, about beatitudes. They touched my heart, and I started changing myself to be a little more connected to what he's saying, spiritually, and it really affected me in work and personally.
How so? I mean, I'm asking because I'm thinking maybe I would like to know how does one become spiritual, and how does one find ways to connect that would help them in their professional or personal lives?
To me, a person should have big connection with its body and spirit, and when he or she finds some spiritual meaning, it is a lot easier to have kind of a unite organism and to act more stable in your work, in your activities, because there are no contradictions, and it helps me always, because sometimes when you're not aware about your inner yourself, maybe you would want something else, but you do something different, and but when you are kind of united, it is a lot easier to achieve your goals, both practically and spiritually.
I'm trying to think, help me make sense of the connection of your history, which is a very interesting and unique history where this family escapes with 3 children. One, I remember you saying, passed away either on the road or during the deportations. But this book also was with them. Tell me how this story that you overheard, they never told you or shared you this directly with you or your brother. How did these stories and how did the general history of our people, from what you know personally, shaped how you are, apart from the fact that you've become more spiritual? I mean, are there certain qualities and values that your parents said you have to absolutely follow? Was that something that you find that was inherited? Was that, tell me a little bit what you think of this, the connection that you can make.
My family was always telling me that you need to be a true, decent person and like a normal, good personality. But when you start reading more deeper books, you understand that there is something else. And I would just want to mention that in my life I see many connections, even when I meet people. For example, my grandfather's sister, which I did not know, and when I returned back to Armenia, she saw me on TV that I was appointed. She saw me on the news, and she's around 80-year-old grandmother. She saw me and she remembered me, but I did not know about her. And it is interesting that she went to Prime Minister's office,
You're kidding.
old woman, and she said, my grandson is working here.
Oh,
please bring him. I want to meet him.
Oh, that's so sweet.
And she thought that all governmental workers are working at the Prime Minister's
office.
But I was at the Ministry of Economy and they couldn't find me. But then her name is Tigin Rima, and her relative, also from government, she found me, Mary, and she said, we saw you, let's unite, and we were just recently, a month ago, we finally met together, and that's what I wrote in the New Testament about people who have pearl heart, like her. She just pearly saw me, and without any
inhibition or fear, or
yes.
You just went straight up to the office and said, "I need to meet my grandson."
Or, for example, one last thing. When I moved to Canada, I was renting an apartment with one Armenian guy, and we started interacting, talking more and more, and apparently his great-grandparents and my great-grandparents are from the same village in Mush.
Oh, how
yeah.
serendipitous.
Yes, and so his family moved to the west, and my family moved to the east. Yeah, and we met. His name is Armen. We met somewhere in Canada, in Vancouver.
Do you feel, you mentioned, I can't help but see an association with the first point you raised about purpose in life. And I'd like to be able to ask you, and this kind of will probably sound repetitive, but you seem to know what your purpose in life is. If you don't mind sharing what that is, whether it's a talent, whether it's an emotion, whether it's what that purpose is. And for many people who want to find meaning and purpose in their lives, what should they do? Or what measures should they take?
Everyone has its purpose and mission. I think we need to find it for ourselves. Everyone should discover it for himself. For myself, I totally understand that the purpose is to serve other people, our country, our organization, my family. This is another step, actually, because my family at some point was struggling because I was totally into serving the country. And now I'm rediscovering the relationship with my family. And this is something, a new page for me. Again, I should show leadership in my family in a new way. And to build yourself more sustainable so that you can leave some heritage for your children, and honestly to be able to stand in front of the Lord
with a clear conscience,
yes,
right?
Yes.
I think I'm going to try to close our conversation with one final question, because we were talking a little bit about leadership, about serving people. We mentioned that you moved from Moscow to Armenia 10 days before the war in Artsakh in 2020. Yes. You've seen how many people to this day are going through a lot of frustration, not just because of the outcome of the war in Artsakh, but even what's lingering on, and even to this day, the blockade that takes place. So I'm assuming that you also work with people who are constantly frustrated. I'm sure you are as well. What lessons have you acquired in this period, and how do you help people not feel so hopeless?
I see many people who are hopeless for some reason, for different reasons, and at some periods I was also almost losing my hope. But again, because I have this strong unity in myself, I was going forward, and this is kind of a test for each of us. How strong can you stand? And I stood. Now I see some fruitful results and continuation of the work. What I experienced from my work and life here in Armenia, anywhere in the world, if you do something good, if you want some great results and you see great results, And sometimes you get demotivated when people don't understand you. Please don't do it so that you wait something in return. Do it and be sure that you will receive some appreciation in any other way. You will not know how. Maybe your children, your family, your ancestors, they will see, but maybe you will receive it
in a different
in
way,
a different
right?
spiritual or material way. That's what helps me, and that's what I'm trying to say to my friends and people who get demotivated because of different situations.
Yeah, it's not just about, for instance, the challenges that you face on a daily basis, but you were here during the war. You were also here, you're here now with what's happening in the Lachin corridor and the blockade. And I mean, how do you maintain a sense of positivity or optimism and try to accomplish anything when you're just overwhelmed with so much negative and toxic and horrific human rights violations like that? So
yes,
how do you navigate that?
I would answer as a Christian, as a member of the Armenian Apostolic Church, that it was all the time this world lies in evil, in negative things, and these countries, especially Armenia, as a first Christian country, first Christian nation, which is surrounded by other nations and other religious groups. When we're struggling within our own history, it means that, to me, that we're on the right way, but it doesn't mean that we need to struggle and we need to be always negative. It means that we have something positive in return and in the future. And we see now many positive things. But
Such as?
Armenia is one of the safest countries in the world.
According to Forbes?
Yes. Armenia is registering thousands of different business people who are coming and opening offices here. Our scientists, our great diaspora, it is not opened the potential. Like my organization, it is not opened, and it was in difficult situation, and it is now continuing to be in many difficult situations. But when you have easy life, it is very difficult to progress. But in this, again, from my experience, like half a year ago, I faced very difficult situation in my work life and life, and I won. Now I'm even stronger. And in our history, I think it cannot be any other way. As a first Christian country, on a state level, you accepted Christianity, and evil forces, they will do everything to so that you don't
Achieve or succeed.
Achieve, yes. Yeah. But again, courageous, again, don't surrender, and totally, definitely, Armenia, many countries, they don't survive. We don't see them. Yeah. Armenia is keeping its history, it's keeping its legacy. And I am sure that, of course, every person, every country, but if we're talking about Armenia, we have some unique place in this world. And please, let's continue this way. But for me, as a person who loves to unite people, I would just encourage our friends, our Armenians from all over the world, and not only Armenians, different people who would want to live and work in Armenia. Main thing, please, if we are united together, definitely no one can winners.
That's a very nice way to end this beautiful conversation, Hayk. Thank you so much. You have such a good sense of optimism. I already feel it in my own heart right now. Your way of seeing the good in the evil, I think, is something that is really hard, but I think you're absolutely right, that we must undertake. And I just want to thank you for the time that you took to meet with me, for being so open and transparent and honest. I only wish you nothing but success with the center and with your family and with your life here in Armenia. Thank you, Hayk.
Lara, thank you so much. I've been waiting for so long to meet you, and finally we met, and it is a great pleasure for me.
Thank you, Hayk.